I need a tripod like that. They do. They design. Like, I want to say this happened like a couple weeks ago, like about a month or two ago. I don't remember the exact date. I really blocked it out of my head. I could look back through my pictures and then see like where I was at different points of this last quarter of the year. But basically, I was homeless around this time this event happened, and I was actually sleeping outside. So when I say I'm homeless, it means to me I don't have my own address or an address that I can call home yet. It doesn't mean I didn't have anywhere to stay, or like, you know, some people are homeless but they live in their car, or they're homeless but they have somewhere to stay. So I'm saying that to say I was actually sleeping outside. So I was sleeping. It was around the middle of the day, or like the middle of the evening marks, so like between 5 and like 8 or 10 p.m. So I don't know. It wasn't nighttime, but it wasn't like morning time. And I was homeless. I'm not gonna get into why or how or what, but I just know that. And I know I was not in the middle of the road. Like, for this to happen. Like, yes, I jaywalk. Yes, I look down sometimes. Yes, sometimes crazy things almost happen and I miss it by a breeze, really. But it's a little bit scary to talk about this, but I'm okay. Thank God I'm okay. And you know, when you're homeless, it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, you want to have somewhere safe to sleep, or like you want to feel like you're not about to be in the cut and somebody else who's homeless could do something to you, or somebody who's not homeless, just knowing that you're homeless. So basically, I was sleeping outside and I had on a blanket over me like halfway, and I had like a couple bags, like luggage, about like, it's not a super tall big luggage, but it was like about 5 feet tall and about this wide, so it's like you could carry stuff. So it wasn't a tiny little bag. And I also had maybe another big black bag, like a duffel bag on top of that, with the same like width. It just wasn't on wheels, and like it wasn't like as big as the luggage bag. And then I probably had the blankets, this comforter, and then some extra stuff that you could see, like it was a cup next to the stuff, and like there's obviously someone is sitting there. So I'm gonna try to describe this area. It was a weird road, you know. I wasn't trying to be out of sight because I didn't want anything to happen to me. Obviously, I'm not trying to be an eyesore, but I'm also, you know, not trying to be like unsafe. Like, I made sure where I was on this weird road, not a lot of people would be driving in and out of this section, or there's not a lot of super deep traffic. It's not like I was like picking a highway to sleep on the side of, or a median in the middle of the highway. I was literally on the edge of like a curb, basically, that wasn't on a busy road, like for real. It was on its way to a hotel, like the little street that I was on, but it wasn't like a road where mad cars are just driving all day and night, you know. It's not a main road. So it was one of these evenings, and I was laying down with the blanket over me, like my bottom half. I think I took a nap. Like, I was probably like exhausted and tired. I had been moving my stuff around a lot, and It wasn't dark or anything, so okay, maybe it does look like, oh my god, this homeless girl's sleeping during the day and she has this free McDonald's cup next to her. Or if they didn't see me, this car, hold on, it's like I have to talk about it. I was laying down on the side of this curb, and it's not on the main road. I had my blanket over me. I was doing this exact thing for like a couple nights in a row already. This same spot, I slept in that spot, I think, for like less than a week straight, basically. Like, I don't know if it was a couple days, I don't know if it was like a week, I don't know, I don't remember because I blocked a lot of that out. So basically, I felt like, okay, this is a nice spot. It's in the middle of a McDonald's and a hotel. It's in broad daylight. Like, obviously, like, you're telling yourself, I'm not about to lay out and sleep in the middle of the road, like, because obviously I can see there's cars. So somebody might tell themselves, oh, but why did you put yourself in the streets? Like, for cars to hit you. And I don't think the way I was positioned would warrant that car to hit me the way it did. Basically, I was laying down. I feel like my head was poked out. No, I didn't have a super huge hairstyle, but my head was poked out. I had my head elevated because it was like I was sleeping on top of my bags instead of on the floor directly. Because I can put the bags on the floor. I don't care. It's just a bag. And then, like, if the blanket touches the floor, boo-hoo. Like, okay, it's not that deep. Like, I wasn't picking a dirty spot to sleep in. So, trying to, like, breathe and talk about it. So, I was clearly taking a nap this one time. My head was poked out. I was laying on top of these bags. I guess this is the way the street was going. And, like, you know, there's a curb. This is the street. This is the little curb, like, curb in the street. I was laying on the curb, and I had my stuff on the curb a little bit. But I think I was laid kind of like to where I wasn't in the middle of the road. I was on the side of the, like, curb and on the road as well. Basically, there was a little patch of grass, the curb, the road. This is all the road. I was kind of like either over the grass and the curb and the road, or the curb and the road, but it wasn't like this is the curb, this little piece, and this is the road that cars can come down. I must have been laid like this or like this or something. It wasn't like I was smack here where cars can just run me over, you know, like, or not even move over a little bit to make sure they don't do what happened. Prior to this event, I have been dealing with, like, severe back pain, and, like, it's lower back pain. Also, it just rang to my legs, and it also felt like it was getting better from a job that I had, like a warehouse job. But, you know, when you stop staying active like that, you start feeling the pain again. So I wasn't in the middle of the road, and I wouldn't lie when I say this. I was taking a nap, and I was woken up to, I think it felt like somebody was dragging my legs out further into the road, or like my foot into the road, like, because I wouldn't fall asleep knowing that cars can hit me directly, like, on the streets. Like, I'm not a junkie to the point where I can't think straight or make decisions on how to keep my physical vessel safe. So up to what it feels like people like messing with my legs or like pulling me out further into the road. And then before I could really fully wake up, this car literally runs over my feet. Real fast, both feet, like, and it was like the toes. So it wasn't like extreme, and it was like it happened so fast. I felt it and didn't feel it. And this car just stopped and didn't do anything. Like, they knew they did that. And I didn't want to react or like run up to the car and like bust the windows out and say, I know you saw me, and what the hell was that? Because I didn't want my position to be like taken advantage of. Like, I'm clearly a homeless person who was sleeping on the side of the road. Like, I'm a small person, so if I'm sleeping and I'm a little bent in and you see this big blue blanket covering me and you see all my stuff, and I didn't cover myself with this blanket, like, it was really not necessary for that to happen. So that happened, and I didn't say anything to the car. They literally stopped right in front of me, and I just looked at the car like, is the person gonna come out and say anything? They didn't do a hit and run. I guess you could say that. But I just didn't make a big deal about it. Because I don't have, like, you know, the time to deal with all that trouble. And I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't go up to the driver. The driver didn't come out the car or say anything to me. I should have said something, but I wasn't feeling like it was necessary. I wasn't in pain, and I wasn't like focused so much on what happened. It's just the fact that the driver didn't come out to ask if I was okay or check or anything, basically. So I think I moved my stuff and walked away. And I think I saw the car drive off, like, really slowly and like ominously. And I know, like, the driver looked like some NPC, like some weirdo for real. But I don't know who or what that was or who they are, so. Basically, I went on about my day. I went on about my life. I found somewhere else to sleep in a similar spot where I figured that wouldn't happen. I'm like, okay, this type of thing that happened can't happen in broad daylight next to a McDonald's and a hotel. It wasn't like I was on I-95 with my legs just dangling out. So basically, I'm saying a couple days and weeks pass. I just never went anywhere. Like, when people assume that homeless people are like junkies and not worth paying attention to, or like they're stupid, or like they're just on drugs and that's it, like, that's the end. And it was giving like it was making me feel like, well, if I ask for help anyway, I don't even think people that can help me feel like I'm worth the help for real. And that goes for like hospitals or people that I know personally. I only felt like that about the hospitals because, or not even hospitals alone, just like police or anything. I only felt like that because I didn't want to be judged and then be made to feel like, well, it's your fault, so can't help you. And then the way it went about, like the driver not coming out to check what they just drove over, and when they knew, I was like reacting to it. I looked at the car and I looked inside of it from the back, and it just felt like it was a weird setup thing. Like, it felt like that person wanted to do that, low key. Or if not that, worse. Because why was I being dragged into the road? Or like, why was I being touched by somebody I don't know? And why did they take it upon themselves to do that? And then not even check. So they can't even say it's an accident because they felt that thud and that thump. They saw and heard me and didn't even come out and like check. I didn't feel it like when it happened. I felt it a little bit like during the week of, but then after that I was stretching and like walking a lot so it could feel better. And surprisingly, funny enough, that happening didn't make the pain that I was experiencing worse. Which, thank God, right? But then also it's just like, damn. Like, I know there's people that do things like that and they don't mean to do that. And it really was an honest mistake. So I don't want people getting in trouble for an honest mistake, even if it did hurt me. And you don't know people's intentions, really, so you can't assume. You just do what you need. I kind of want to add that, like, I've always kind of been that way, like, sacrificial about my pain, just to make somebody else feel more comfortable. And that's a more extreme example of that type of shit. Like, I could easily have somewhere to stay, which was the hospital, right? Because that was grounds to do that, and get somewhere to stay. And I felt like, no, I just don't want all this extra trouble and all this extra drama and all these questions. And then, honestly, even if the doctors or like the police could do something, it would have just added some bill to the back of my life. Or like, maybe they would just go, you don't have insurance, or you don't have this and that and the third. So yeah, it's like, it's given, we can't help you unless you're basically like, you know, not somebody that we look at like society's worst nightmare. So I wasn't trying to think of all that while it happened. I was trying to just be stoic and like just think about how it could have helped me. It was very traumatic. I never really talked about it until like today. And I'm not sure how much pain it actually caused, because I've always had like kind of a high pain tolerance. And I don't talk about my pain, whether it's emotional or physical. So, I mean, I do now, but I used to not, because it wasn't okay. It made you sound like you want a pity party. It makes people look at you like you're victimizing yourself when you talk about things that you went through. With good intentions, of course, to like maybe help protect somebody else from going through that same thing. Or just to talk about it, because maybe that person doesn't have people to talk to about stuff like that without being made to feel like guilty, or being made to feel like they're holding on to the past and stuff, when stuff like that needs to be shared and talked about. Like, it's good they didn't drive off, because they probably wanted to not deal with that type of thing, like hit and run. But I felt like the least they could have did was like, you know, say something, but I think maybe they were telling themselves, dang, really didn't mean to do that. I don't really like to make a scene or cause commotion unless something is really dire. Or to me, like, my mental peace is probably one of the most important things to me. And yeah, my physical health and my emotional health, but like, I really take pride in how peaceful I keep my mind, because a lot of my surroundings growing up were something I could be content in and grateful, but at the same time it was a little sketchy around certain areas. So I spent a lot of time in my head. I actually wonder how they're doing, that person, because I'm like, I can't tell, or those people, because I can't tell if it was like, I can't tell what the real purpose of that was. And I really don't like the idea of somebody being in trouble over something I could just get over. Unless it's like something wild, like and irreversible. That's subjective, to be honest. Like, sometimes people think trust is irreversible. Sometimes people think you could gain that back. Like, some people think money is irreversible. And it's like, it's just, I guess, to each their own. And I know there's a lot of homeless people that get treated like they really don't matter in the world to strangers or their family or whatever. And it just gets as dark or as deep as it gets sometimes, depending on how supportive they are of themselves or how much support they acquire. And I know a lot of homeless people feel helpless, like a lot of resources are usually taken up, or they're made to feel like the least important because they don't have like children, or they don't have a disability, or like it's just makes you feel like something is not enough just to have or just to be. Like, you have to come up with some condition or some price for things, or you have to be near dead to get help. For real. Because everyone assumes all you want to do with help is really like self-destruct with drugs or alcohol, and that's not true for every homeless person. Even if they indulge in that stuff, or even if they like that, or they've lived that sort of life, it's just a part of it. Like, their life matters. It's a life. It's part of the geometric flower. It matters as much as yours does. For real. There's no real difference in the nature of people, like, if that makes sense. Obviously people are different, but there's this category that homeless people be in. For real. Or you could call it anything you want. You could call it whatever. You could put whatever words you want there. Pay attention when you're driving, because obviously I'm not gonna say I should have been on the curb of the road, but there wasn't any traffic going on. There wasn't cars behind them lined up waiting. It wasn't a speed limit of 30, 40 miles per hour. So I'm not gonna say I was totally right and this car was totally wrong, but just like, if you're homeless, just protect yourself. Like, have a weapon, or like just be somewhere that you're gonna feel like you're in sight and feel like, I don't know, people that make you uncomfortable or people that you don't feel safe around, they don't know anywhere where you are. Just pay attention, especially when you're operating machinery or cars. That's shit can really hurt people, like whether they're driving or sleeping or not. Like, again, I've said this already, but the road is basically crazy. Like, just pay attention and don't drink and drive. Don't just be driving willy-nilly out here. And if you see something in the road, don't feel like if it's a blanket or whatever you feel like you see, try to avoid it anyway. But yeah, cars are very dangerous things. Like, cars are really heavy. Cars are really big, and people are not as big as cars or strong as cars. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't pay attention either, but I feel like people that's operating cars or machinery should be paying attention the most, because that's the more deadlier thing. You know, like, that's why you have to go to school, driving school, to drive, basically, so that it's a privilege. It's not like walking or taking the bus. Driving is a privilege. Like, people forget that because it's so normalized, but you're operating a machine that costs how much? Like, and people are priceless. So whether they're drunk driving or not paying attention or whatever was going on, I don't know if those people were trying to do that on purpose. Don't be moving with cars like that with no contrition, or like you're not paying attention.